for Washington to be anywhere near a team that they resembled 2 years ago, Jaden's going to have to really play well. It's going to have to be a high level, borderline elite quarterback. We got a lot of football on the show today. I know it's the national championship night, but I still believe that most of you care mostly about football. And I wanted to get to this because a lot of you sent this to me. It was Mike Sando's, he writes for The Athletic, basically going to NFL executives around the league to talk about free agency and to comment on other teams' free agencies so far. The title of the story is NFL Execs Unfiltered on Free Agency. And a lot of you sent me what Mike wrote and what people said about Washington's free agency period. So I'm going to read it to you, react, and then I'd like you guys to react as well. But this is what he writes. He writes, the Commanders entered free agency with lots of cap space, but that was partly a mirage. They had more roster spots to fill than most after signing so many short-term contracts over the past 2 off seasons. And they filled them with a league-high 7 newcomers, earning at least $6.5 million per year. This from one team exec. You kind of get what you pay for with those $6 to $8 million guys. They are fringe starters. It makes some sense. You got to fill out your roster. They had to get younger, closed quote. Sando continues, badly in need of pass rush help, Washington committed $35 million in combined average per year to free agent edge rushers Odafe Oweh and K'Lavon Chaisson. We know that those were the 2 of the biggies for them in free agency, Oweh being the biggest. One exec said, quote, those are rotational pieces. Oweh is more of a designated pass rusher than an every down guy. A little hit and miss, but they needed some speed on defense, closed quote. One under-the-radar signing to watch, defensive lineman Tim Settle, who spent his first 4 seasons in D.C. after Washington drafted him in 2018. This was an exec talking about Tim Settle. Quote, Settle was Houston's best run defender, the interior guy who knocks people back. I would have loved to have had him. He's a Virginia Tech kid from Virginia, so that was what it was, closed quote. Sando writes, quarterback Jaden Daniels' return to health under first-time offensive coordinator David Blau stands out as the key variable more than these signings. This is what one team exec finished up Sando's write-up on Washington's free agency said. Quote, they are making a bunch of revolving door moves this year, which looks like a panic to me. It's all going to depend on how the quarterback plays. He can save it all. Closed quote. So, it's all going to depend on how the quarterback plays. He can save it all. Yeah, you can only at about, 25 teams out of the 32. I mean, wow. Who knew? Who knew it was about the quarterback? Who knew that the quarterback needs to play well for the team to play well? Revolving door moves is really the wrong way to kind of put it. They did more of the longer-term deals than they've done in a while. Let's go through the actual all of the deals here that they did here. Hold on. Odafe Oweh, 4-year deal. Chigakonkwo, 3-year deal. Leo Chenal, 3-year deal. Tim Settle, 3-year deal. Then there were some 2-year deals, Robertson and Cross. And yes, there were some 1-year deals. Free agency is one of those things you've got to be careful about. History will tell you that you don't typically, even though New England and Seattle did a phenomenal job last year, in sort of this same vein, adding a lot of players in that $6 to $8 million range, other than the Darnold signing for Seattle. But typically, you are much more miss than hit on free agency. It's not the same as the draft, but there is a lot of there are a lot of reasons why players are available in free agency, and many of them aren't good reasons. So Washington had a lot of roster spots to fill. They had the second fewest roster spots or players under contract when free agency began. Second to Baltimore. I believe Baltimore had the fewest under contract when free agency began. So Washington had a lot of needs to fill. They'll fill more during the draft. They'll fill more after the draft. But, a revolving door, your top, let's just say that your top 4 players are 3-year deals and longer, and your top 6 players are 2-year deals. They're not all 1-year deal. The most significant 1-year deal is Sheehan, who signed a 1-year deal for $11 million. So, yeah, I don't agree with the revolving door description. That's not the way I would necessarily put it. The other piece is just the panic idea. Washington panicking. If you want to say, wow, they struck out on Alec Pierce. They struck out on Tyler Linderbaum. They struck out on Jalen Phillips. They struck out on Trey Hendrickson. First of all, I don't know how much of that is valid. The Pierce is, but was Pierce ever going to leave? The Linderbaum is, but do you blame him? I mean, the money went, way above what was projected. Didn't we have a guest on the show the other day who said that essentially, if you do the math, the consensus on what Linderbaum was going to get and then what he actually got, it was the largest upward gap that we've seen ever in free agency from what he was expected to get versus what he did in terms of percentage increase. I don't see panic. I see more measured. A panic would have been overpaying a lot of players when you didn't get those first few. Always not a massive overpay. The guaranteed dollars, Mike Giannetti from Spot Track told us the guaranteed dollars are a little bit high for him, but overall, like $96 million in actual aggregate value. So it's $24 million a year. It's maybe slightly high. It wasn't $100 million, by the way. The actual contract was $96 million for 4 years. So it comes out at $24 million per Spot Track anyway. The Chig deal was a deal that he was expected to get entering free agency. Chenal as well. Settle, that didn't. What signing felt like a panic move? Maybe Owe after they didn't. And we don't even know how interested they were, but there was some interest in Jalen Phillips. There was some interest in Hendrickson. And in that moment, the price was too high. Owe was a top 6 free agent when free agency began. Go look at any top 50 free agency list before free agency began. Owe's in everybody's top 10 and is in several top 6s. That's not the way I would view it as a panic move or as revolving doors. They had a lot of roster spots to fill. They had a lot of money to spend. And we do know from free agency, not all these guys are going to hit. We know that. We may really rip into Peters for 1 or 2 of these signings, but hopefully 1 or 2 or 3 of them really make the class overall net positive. I'll tell you, somebody laughed at me for this. Oh, a friend of mine, James, laughed at me for saying that bringing back Marcus Mariota was huge. I don't know why anybody would laugh at that. You got to have a backup quarterback in the NFL. Have to. If you're going to, if you think you've got a chance to, be a playoff team. And there's no reason for Washington not to think that they can be a playoff team. They are 1 year removed from an NFC championship visit. I think the bigger issue is, did they get him right? Is Owe going to be more than just a designated pass rusher? And if he is just a designated pass rusher, does he turn out to be a dominant one, a great one, a 14-sack guy, 13 sacks, lots of pressures, 3 forced fumble guy? How good is Chigakonkwo? He could be the player of the class in the offense that they're going to run with the quarterback that they have. Sheehan was a guy that Kansas City hated to see go. You know, we had our guy on from Kansas City. They didn't want to see Sheehan go. Settle, apparently, according to a couple of NFL execs, might be the best guy they signed in terms of run stoppers. I didn't necessarily know that he was Houston's best run defender. I knew he was good when he was out there, but man, their defense had a lot of good defensive players, a lot of star defensive players. Nick Cross seems like the right kind of fit. We'll see, but we're not even sure what the defense will look like. The two things that are interesting from this is the panic comment. They are making a bunch of revolving door moves this year, which looks like a panic to me, said one exec. It's going to depend on how the quarterback plays. He can save it all. Duh. I mean, that's like the most obvious thing anybody could say, even an NFL exec. I mean, you can say that about 25 NFL teams. If they don't have their starting quarterback and he's not playing at a high level, you're doomed. That's kind of the game, unfortunately, or a lot of it. And I would certainly join the crew that says for Washington to be anywhere near a team that they resembled 2 years ago, Jaden's going to have really play well. He's going to have to be a high level, borderline elite quarterback. He's got the potential to be that. He was that 2 years ago. So that's obvious. The revolving door moves, which looks like a panic to me, said one exec, didn't seem like panicking to me. Seemed much more measured. It was aggressive, but it was aggressive in sort of a measured sense. They didn't go nuts. They didn't give 3 or 4 players $100 million deals. Now, maybe if they signed Alec Pierce and Tyler Linderbaum, we would have had 2 of those. Possible. But ultimately, what they have, it seemed like part of the plan to fill out a lot of spots, primarily on defense, to commit to at least, 1 or 2 players in terms of significant years and significant money on both sides of the ball. They certainly did it on defense with Oweh and with Sheehan, and even, settled to a certain degree. But more Sheehan and Oweh. And on offense, they did it with Okonkwo, but not crazy money. They weren't fleeced on any of these deals. That would have said panic to me.